Hello, I'm Mike Ryan, and welcome to BNAP Today, September 11, 2020. It's a Friday and start of the weekend. Coming up, USA stocks, music, and fabulous wine. But first, the headlines. National Securities Art Hogan recommends investors buy home builders stocks following the recent sell-off. He also tells Fred Katayama why he likes the prospects for JP Morgan Chase and Apple.
Stocks on Wall Street falling Thursday. Was Wednesday's rebound a blip? Let's ask Art Hogan of National Securities, joining me now from Duxbury, Massachusetts. Welcome back, Art.
Thank you.
So what happens, Art, if we don't get a follow-through from yesterday's rebound following what was a three-day sell-off?
You know, it's interesting. I think that what we need to get used to right now is that it's going to be a very volatile month. And I say that because, A, we came into the month very overbought. So that three-day sell-off really took care of some of that very overbought environment we were in. Relative strength indexes were stretched close to 90, where 70 is overbought and 50 is normal. I think that the headwinds are equal to the tailwinds as we head into the month of September, as well as we get concerned about how long it's taking to get the CARES Act 2.0 out of Congress, how long it's taken for China to retaliate in the U.S.-China trade tensions and technology Cold War that we're in. And certainly, valuations entering the month, we've been up and unidirectionally high for a long time. So the fact that we decided to roll over and gave up about 11% on the Nasdaq and about 7% on the S&P 500 over the past few days, and then bounced a couple percentages, I think it's going to be the type of volatility we should be used to as we work our way through the election cycle. I just think investors have an equal balance of things to be concerned about as they do tailwinds. And I think the tailwinds are similar to what we've seen before.
So I guess what you're saying is the three-day sell-off sort of took care of the overbought conditions, but there are still risks or headwinds ahead such that we could expect possibly more downside then.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the kind of choppiness that we've seen, certainly not down 10% in 3 days, but the kind of volatility we're up one day and down another. Remember, we started this sell-off the day after the market was up some 500 points in the Dow Jones Industrial Average. So, we had a volatile week, and clearly coming into a volatile week with valuations a bit stretched, with plenty of things to be concerned about, I think we've got a September that's going to be rocky, and Septembers historically haven't been great months for markets.
And we've got an election up ahead too, among other things. Well, given that we've seen a setback in stocks over a three-day sell-off and a little setback today, what three stocks would you recommend that investors pick up at these levels?
You know what I love right now is the home builders in general. And I think the home builders are hitting an environment where there's not enough supply and there's an increasing amount of demand. There's a generation of baby boomers that want to retire and downsize. There's a generation of millennials that want to buy their first home, and household formations as rapid as we've seen in decades. So as we look at the home builders, low interest rates for mortgages, we certainly think that the Fed keeps those rates low for a period of time. And clearly people want to move out of crowded cities and move out to the suburbs. So home builders are going to do well as a sector. We like D.R. Horton as one of our favorite names there. I think when we think about economically sensitive sectors, the financials are one of the first that come to mind. We love JP Morgan right now. Valuation wise, I think it's doing great. The largest of the money center banks, they have a rock solid balance sheet and a great leadership. So, at $100, we think JP Morgan is a steal here, and it throws off about a 3.6% dividend. And the third stock that I would tell you is Apple. I think Apple is just being priced as a hardware company. And while it's going to have a great hardware rollout, we haven't even talked about the 5G phone coming out. And yet, they may well, produce 75 million of those and sell them before Christmas. That's just the tip of the iceberg for Apple, which has got an amazing ecosystem, and they just continue to be shareholder friendly, a long runway with the 5G rollouts of new devices. And I think Apple is not priced for perfection. It's priced as a hardware company and should start to be priced as a service company.
Well, Art, I was looking at some home builder stocks actually the other day and noticed that the D.R. Hortons, the Pulte's, the Tolls, they're trading around 11, 12 times earnings, which are pretty cheap especially compared to the tech stocks. But looking at the other stock you mentioned, JP Morgan, okay to buy a stock like JP Morgan, even though rates are going to be low for quite some time, as the Fed has indicated?
Yeah, that's a great question. Rates are going to be low for a while, but what the Fed has decided to do and not do are really important to think about. So the Fed has clearly acknowledged they have to keep rates low and probably through 2021. They've also talked about keeping the size of the balance sheet probably similar to where it is now. So it's $6.75 trillion balance sheet, probably doesn't shrink a whole lot, and that's probably going to keep pressure on rates on the front end. And I think the Fed controls the front end of the curve. What they didn't talk about was yield curve control, or actually a program where they could actually come in and put limits on yields on treasuries out on the back end of the curve. So if you actually have the back end of the curve naturally rising, which I suspect it will do, banks actually pick up net interest margin in that environment. So the banks are actually able to collect more between what they're bringing deposit in for and lending it out. At the very same time, banks actually do better as the GDP increases. And I think we're going to see sequentially better economic data as we work into the first half of next year. So I like the economically sensitive nature of financials. I like the fact that it's coming at you at a very low valuation. It's trading at or about its tangible book value, and certainly at a very reasonable PE multiple, and it throws off a very handsome dividend.
I see a big cyclical play. All right. Thanks a lot, Art, for your ideas.
Thank you.
Our thanks to Art Hogan of National Securities. I'm Fred Katayama in New York. This is Reuters.
Coming up next, we go big band with UNAM.
As the world faces the challenges of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, Lions recognize that kindness matters now more than ever. And Lions and Leos are finding ways to continue to serve our communities, including ordering food delivery for healthcare workers, holding story time for children online, and providing surgical masks to medical professionals and first responders. Empowering us to do more, Lions Clubs International Foundation has provided nearly $2.5 million in grant funding for COVID-19 relief. And that support continues to grow. For more than 100 years, in times of need, Lions always find a way to help those around them. And after we emerge from this, we will be stronger than ever. Visit lionsclubs.org to learn more.
Well known throughout Europe and the US as a musical trendsetter and innovative player in instrumental music, soul and R&B, UNAM has had much success in not only the US but globally. In 2012, he founded his own Skytown Records and made his debut for the label with the star-studded Weekend in LA, a tribute to George Benson. 2 years later, C'est Le Funk, which spawned the top 20 hits, Smoothin' and Risin' to the top. UNAM released his 7th studio album in 2019, Future Love, and enjoyed huge chart success with his sensational Future Love Parts 1 and 2. That reached number 20 on the top 25 Billboard Jazz best-selling album chart and number 8 in the contemporary jazz category. UNAM Goes Big Band was released in 2020. UNAM, it's a real pleasure meeting you. I've been wanting to do this for so many years. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Mike. You're so welcome. I'm glad we finally met quite in person.
I mean, one of my favourite albums of all time would have to be Weekend in LA, tribute to George Benson. Both versions, and it's wonderful music, and the guitar is pretty good too.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, it was a quite crazy project that you put together. Yeah, back in 2012. Yeah, so I'm glad you like it. It was a lot of fun. It was kind of crazy though, but yeah, we had fun. Yeah.
Now this year you released UNAM Goes Big Band on the Skytown Records label. It's a collaboration with the Lutz Krajinski Big Band based on Estonian pop songs from 1945 to 1980. You were contacted by Mick Targo, a Estonian producer. Now he had a real passion for the album, chopped down 100 to what we have now. Before Mick Targo had got hold of you, tell me about your knowledge on Estonian pop songs.
Well, it's very simple. I didn't have any knowledge about any Estonian songs at all. So just to make it clear, I have no idea what they were doing over there.
But I have to say though, I mean, because you have the big band and the jazz and funk and soul element there. You think, oh, I've heard that song from somewhere before. It's the whole mix down is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happened. I mean, this thing totally happened, like out of the blue. I mean, I was touring somewhere in the US. It was like almost 2 years ago, and had some emails going to the company, and one guy saying, oh, I'm like the founder of the Estonian Office Society, and we did a special project for the 25th anniversary, and we did pick the top 100 best pop Estonian songs, and we had like a poll with the people in Estonia to pick the best top 25, 30, whatever, and we decided to redo them in a big band jazz way, but all vocals, right? But with Estonians lyrics, and then we redid it with some English lyrics. And the guy, I don't know, he just said, "I want you to do it." I'm like, what is this guy is talking about? Sending me a long email, and I'm like, but to make the show short, because it's quite a crazy story. What happened is that it turns out that there's a big radio station in Latvia, which is right by Estonia. Okay, it's very close, right? A few kilometers, separate, whatever. And they are playing my music all the time in that station over there. And Mick is a big fan of the George Duke and George Benson in jazz and funk. He's a drummer originally, so he was a big fan of me already. And for some kind of reason, there's a lot of weird stuff that happened. He heard me again on the radio, and then he had one friend of his giving him my latest album and stuff like that. And for him, it was a lot of sign. And he said, "Oh, I want you to do that because he's a storyteller, and there's nobody else better than him to do that." And I was like, "Oh, okay," but and honestly, I listened to the song, and I'm like, because I always loved big band. I started even when I was 16. Playing just rhythm in a big band at my music school, and jazz music school in France. But I'm like, okay, that's not really what I do. But then I started to listen to the song, and man, I'm like, this is beautiful tunes. It's beautiful tunes. And I tried a couple, I tried a few things, whatever. And I said, okay, well, I'll do it. And then, especially when I heard that one song, and maybe we'll talk more about it, but it's starting to be a big hit in the US right now. It's called Each Day is a Gift. When I heard that song the first time I heard it, I said, oh, I'm down. I'm doing that project. I love that song so much. And there's somebody that wrote it 60 years ago, whatever, in Estonia. And I have more to tell you about that song, by the way.
So how long did this whole project take?
Well, this one was quite fast because, like I mentioned before, they already recorded the songs. I mean, it was vocal tunes. So basically, I just asked them to have what we call the separate tracks, and so this one was quite easy. I just had to play my lead on it, and then I added a few wah-wah guitar on one tune, and we added some percussion as well. My guy that plays on all my albums, Denis Benaroche, and then I just I redid the mix because I wanted to have a mix that was more still big band and jazz, but a bit more modern, and a bit more standards like we have in the US, for example, and stuff like that, But honestly, it took me long. I don't know, maybe 3-4 months, something like that.
What about the reaction? I mean, are you now the Estonian national hero?
Yeah.
And obviously it's done well in Estonia.
Well, you know what? it's not totally wrong. I mean, maybe not the number one like national hero, but they did like a huge long segment on like a national television over there. Like a 10-minute segment because they were playing all the old songs. With like because the thing is that those songs were songs written and sang by like the biggest stars in Estonia, right? So for them, like that's a huge deal. And then they have like some of those songs the first time in some US charts or in the charts or US radios or whatever. So they're like crazy, they're like really proud and Mick, the producer is very excited and unfortunately, but hopefully maybe it's gonna happen like next year. But we're supposed to start to put some shows together, especially in Estonia. But then the COVID happened, so.
But wouldn't that be
kind of change the plan?
Well, what an amazing sight to have the big band, have you playing with your ensemble. Just visually, it would be stunning, and entertainment-wise, I mean, you could go any direction you wanted to and really take the audience away with you if you wanted to.
Yeah, that was exactly the plan. I mean, because they got a great musician in Estonia, Germany is right there. It's quite easy to get the big band, and that was exactly my idea. I was like thinking, okay, kind of like when George Benson did the Nat King Cole tribute album, which was all like Cole, like jazz tunes and with like the string orchestra, whatever. But believe me, he finished the show with "Give Me the Night," no matter what. So he's got the whole show like that. But then it's like, okay, you need to like bring the audience like somewhere else and make them dance and having a good time, show different side of you as well or whatever. And I was thinking, oh yeah, I want to do that. It's like, okay, we play some songs from the big band, and let me like try to introduce like a more like funky tune and groovy tune, to have fun, But so we see. I mean, might happen. Who knows?
A track you really like is "Each Day's a Gift." Tell me about that.
The first time I heard it, just the intro, with like that muted trumpet riff that I heard, I was just so in love with it. And then the groove, and it was simple but classy. And I just love the melody. I just love it. I just really love it. I said, I want to, and like I said earlier, that's really what decided me. I just want to do that album just for that tune, And I had so much fun because even on the two different versions, because one version is with a sing by Steve Bronstein. That was the first winner of the UK X Factor.
That's right.
Yeah, right. So, and I did an instrumental version as well. But I was thinking, okay, here's the thing. I'm gonna play differently, quite not on everything, but quite on the two versions, because one I'm playing the melody, so I'm just gonna play the melody, it's nice or whatever, and doing my thing. But then on the vocal one, as I'm not playing the melody, I'm gonna find some like different guitar arrangement around it, so I make it quite different as well, because I just love that tune. I don't know, I just love it, and right now. It's been the second single of the album, and it's really doing great. I mean, they are like playing it like in a heavy rotation on Sirius XM in the US and whatever. So I don't know. There's something special about that tune. But here's the funny thing I wanted to say earlier. When we mentioned about all those songs, right? There was like some of the top 100 best ever Estonian songs, right? But when I asked Mick Targo, because Sirius XM was asking me about the story behind it, right? And so I asked Mick, the producer, right? I said, okay, so what is it about that song? And you know what's funny? He said, well, actually, this song, it's like he just found it by chance. This one was not a hit at all in Estonia. It was just an obscure song.
It's interesting also, the songs from 1945 to 1980. And you wonder how the mood of the song would change. But after the war, 1945, you could imagine these songs being written from great from a great depth of the heart.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I mean, yeah, I don't know any specific names or whatever, but I know that Vic told me that need to remember that at that time Estonia was still part of the USSR, so it was like right in the middle, like the Iron Curtain, the Cold War, and stuff like that. And obviously, maybe people doesn't know it, but Estonia have their own language. They don't speak Russian. They had to learn Russian. Okay, they've never been really part of Russia, so always been like conflicts, whatever, and some stuff. And some of those guys, they were prisoners at some point, like going in the Gulag and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a really kind of tough, weird time, when they wrote those songs and did all that kind of music. So that's why you can't tell in the way that is really filled with deepness, soul, and emotions, on those songs and writing.
In 2019, you also released your album Future Love, which has done really well on the charts, also with Amazon, iTunes in the US and other parts of the world. Can you tell us about that album?
Well, this album came at a very, very, very tough time in my life. So I was just right in the middle of it. I went into a divorce after 10 years and at 2 years old and whatever. So, and it was really, really tough, really tough. And I was in the middle of working on my album, and then when that thing happened, I kind of readjust the idea of the concept, and instead of doing something kind of like very sad and kind of negative energy, like a lot of artists when they go through a breakup or divorce or whatever, stuff like that, they just write a bunch of sad songs and stuff and whatever. And I'm like, you know what, I ain't gonna do that. You know what, I ain't gonna do that. I'm gonna try to be positive. So that's why it turned out like the title of the album like came out like, okay, Future Love, like something more like positive. So that's what happened with that album. And yeah, I did when it came out, it did beautifully in the Billboard sales in the US. I mean, so yeah, that's what happened with that album.
What about the Love Vault? And is there a third part coming along?
Yeah, so earlier I was mentioning that there's songs that sometimes and many times that I've done or recorded, they don't end up on the album or the album I'm working on or on some albums because I feel like, doesn't fit on the album or it's just not the way I see it or whatever, stuff like that. And exactly what happened on the Future Love album and the one before as well. So I got a bunch of songs of it, right there, and I had a few new songs as well. And I'm like, it's a shame because there's one song in particular that I got in mind. I got like the drummer playing on it. Like keep telling me, man, it's such a beautiful song. It's like, it's a shame it's not on the album and this and that and that other tune as well. And I was like, okay, well, what about if I release like a vault thing? Like the concept's it's not going to be a concept. The concept is going to be like, that's the song in the vault, quote, So it's like, at least I don't have to worry about if it fits in a concept album because the concept is the vault. So it doesn't matter, right? So that was the idea. So I said, okay, let me do that. And then I said, okay, you know what? I want to do it like as a part 2 for some kind of reason. I had that idea. So I released it as like a Future Love part 2. And actually one of the single, the first single did super great in the US. I was very, it's called Sexy Fresh. I was very surprised. It's a song I had like for like 12, 13 years, something like that. never finished it, and so sometimes it's kind of weird. So yes, so when I did decided to do part two, I already thought, okay, well then I'm gonna do a trilogy. Why not? So I'm gonna do Future Love part three, and kind of close the chapter. So I'm working on it right now. It's taking time because I'm very busy, and then I just want to make it right, and so it's in the work. It's in a work in progress right now. So.
How have you changed and your music changed though? From you've been in the States for 12 years or thereabouts. You've had your influences. I believe George Benson, Nile Rodgers, and you can really hear that come out in your music. But how's it changed from 12 years ago, say to now, or how have you changed? And you've gone through some trauma in your life and all sorts of things.
I don't know. I don't think I really changed. I mean, I just got older. That's it.
Well, that's changing.
So I guess I mellowed down a little bit, but thing is at some point I would say like in the middle of those 12 years, I wasn't sure anymore. Like, okay, do I have to change more and be more in the norm? Because what I'm doing is I mean, it's quite very different than a lot of artists. I mean, I'm just trying to be me, but it's what turns out to be, and I'm like, and it's been tough sometimes, because it takes years sometimes to accept something that is very different, and I was starting to get it, so I was like, and now. I ain't gonna change. I'm doing super great in Japan. They love me over there, and I get like a core fans as well. That when I put out an album, we just like give support by the album and stuff like that. So, so I got my own little thing, and I'm like, no, I don't think I'm gonna change at all. I mean, it's just what is hard now is trying to find more inspiration and stuff. To make the music interesting, I don't like to release like the same song over and over and over again. Like I hear many times. Unfortunately, I don't like to do that, and that is very hard. This is very hard, So no, I don't think I changed much. I kind of like try to help new talents and trying to give some advice and try to work on different projects. Like right now. I mean, the big band thing was like amazing for me. I mean, I came out of the blue, and that's something I always wanted to do. And thing is that people they don't understand. We're like, oh, what? UNM goes big band? What the? It's like this guy is always like doing some funky stuff, and now he's going big band. It's like, well, it's like, yeah, I can play jazz. I play jazz, I play fusion, I play funk, but my heart is like in soul and funk and R&B, but I can play all that too, and I love it as well, and we can like, wow, what is that guy doing? And that's what I want the people like to, really keep from me in a way that I can do a lot of things. Don't ever expect me anywhere. You never know what I might be doing tomorrow.
Absolutely stunning. Love the album. UNAM Goes Big Band. It's on Skytown Records, collaboration with the Lutz Krajinski Big Band. UNAM, thank you very much.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you so much, Mike.
Decryption successful.
Whenever dark has fallen, the We'll feel the rhythm of the evening taking us up high. Never mind the weather. We'll be dancing in the street until the morning light. 'Cause there's music in the air and lots of loving everywhere. So give me the night. Oh, just give me the night. Give me the night. Just give me the night.
Coming up next, one of the great wine regions in the world. New Zealand's Marlborough region is about world-famous Sauvignon Blanc, delicious fresh seafood and diverse landscapes.
Marlborough is New Zealand's largest wine region, with the greatest area of vineyards planted in the country. Situated at the top of New Zealand's South Island, looking towards the Cook Strait, its maritime climate has a cooling influence, whilst experiencing some of the highest sunshine hours in the country. Along with the world-famous Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc, the region also produces outstanding Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, as well as premium aromatic varieties. Marlborough's diurnal range of around 11 degrees creates long, hot days and cool nights, allowing grapes to ripen slowly and retain fruit intensity and high natural acidity. The Wairau Valley vineyards are planted in the old gravelly riverbed soils of the Wairau River that now flows along the base of the Richmond Range. The humps and hollows are very obvious down vine rows that run from north to south, showing where the river has flowed over many centuries. The soils here are naturally free-draining and range from old stony riverbeds to fine, deep alluvial soils. The Richmond Ranges and Wither Hills protect the Wairau Valley from incoming rain. They create a zone of high sunshine as clouds are buffered by the hills, preventing any rain from spilling over into the main valley. The southern valleys stretch across the valley floor and rise up towards the Wither Hills and Black Birch Range. The soils here are older, heavier in clay and hold more moisture than the Wairau Valley subregion. The rolling hills and valleys mean the majority of sites have good northerly orientation, which assists ripening on this cooler, drier side of the Wairau Valley. Pinot Noir is widely planted in the southern valleys, often on the rolling hills. This area provides a different flavour profile and structure due to these clay-based soils. The Awatere Valley, the driest, coolest and windiest subregion of Marlborough, is also dominated by its river and floodplains. Flanked by the Black Birch and Kaikoura ranges, the Awatere Valley is the most geographically distinct subregion. Dramatic river terraces have been carved out, creating free-draining sites with alluvial gravels along the banks of the river and clay and sandstone subsoils on the wider river plains. This terroir influences the profiles of wine produced here, making them highly regarded and distinctive. Experiencing Marlborough's climate of very high sunshine, intense UV light, cool nights and pristine alpine rivers, it's easy to taste this in a glass of Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc.
That's it for another week. Have a great weekend. For BNAP Today, I'm Mike Ryan.